think we are going to go ahead and get started. When I chair stuff in City Council, I like it to start on time, but this felt really important and organic for people to take this opportunity to connect with one another, because part of what moves this forward today is about community. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Anne Thalheimer. I live here in Holyoke. I think this is the 9th year that we've been doing this annual event. This is a community-centered, survivor-centered speaking experience. Not a vigil, but a remembrance, a way to honor and remember those, not just that we've lost to gun violence, those who have been stolen from us, but those deep ripples and effects that move through families, through communities, through cities, anytime we have any kind of gun violence. This is the first year I've done this as a city councilor, which has been an incredible 6 months, but has deepened my commitment to working with the community and using my voice to uplift the stories and remembrances of fellow survivors. I survived a school shooting in 1992 in Great Barrington on my college campus, where a colleague, a classmate of mine, had gotten legally, easily, cheaply, a cheap Chinese-made SKS rifle, brought it back to campus and loaded it with the bullets he'd had shipped to campus and moved end to end, firing at anything that moved. I was 18. He murdered my professor, Dr. Nyakunyan Saez, who was one of the most brilliant people I have ever met, who had a love of life and language I have never seen matched. And he is why I went into education, and I honor him every time I walk into a classroom. My classmate, Galen Gibson, 7 days older than I am, was murdered. 3 other folks were shot and survived, and a community of people were left forever marked, forever changed. And this was in 1992. This was before this reached epidemic proportions. And my experience is rare. When we look at the scope of gun violence in our communities in Massachusetts and beyond, the mass shooting that I lived through is uncharacteristic. What we're talking about are things to do with completion of suicide by gun. Statistically, this is what we see the most in Massachusetts, but it is not the only one that we see. And when we talk about survivors, we don't just mean the people who lived through it, we mean all the people who were touched by it. And this is an important thing to keep in mind moving forward. So before we begin our program, and I've asked a number of different people to come and speak, again, to elevate survivor voices and to really remind us of why we do this and why we look forward to the year we don't have to do this. I want to just take a moment, and in that moment, if you want to hold silence, you can, but if you would like to say the name of your loved one or loved ones, because we know it's rarely just one person, I would like to do this in this moment. So if you would like to participate with me, you're welcome to do so. If you'd like to hold a moment of silence, that is also fine. So I will say, Dr. Nyakunyan Saez, Galen Gibson, and I want you to say yours as well, if you would like to. So in this moment, please do so.
Ezekiel.
KJ Morris.
Thank you. And we know, of course, that there are so many others that we are thinking about and not speaking. And this is part of why I want to encourage folks as well. We have a table here with some information, but we do have these orange hearts, and on them, I encourage folks to write down the name of someone you know who has been affected by gun violence, someone you want remembered, someone you want honored. And this has been one of the most striking things in working in concert with the mayor's office. Last year you taped them up in your office window and they stayed there for the entire year. And every time I drove past City Hall, I remembered the names of the other folks involved as well. And that is the standing tribute and living memorial and remembrance that we need to center as we do our work on gun violence prevention. And so to that end, we have a number of different speakers today. But first, I would like to bring my colleague and my friend, Israel Rivera, to the microphone.
First of all, well, I don't know, I might have to take the microphone probably. So I had a speech. I'm not gonna read the speech because it feels fake to me. But I wanna thank those that are here and that are joining us, because this is an impactful moment every day that we do this, and every year that we do this. It is important for us to highlight how gun violence impacts us in Holyoke and the residents of Holyoke. I want to start first by recognizing Francesca Nunez, who's over there. She lost her son in 2020, Jonas Nunez, at the age of 15. At the same time, I want to recognize Dexter Ortiz's mom and dad, Evelyn and Leo Ortiz. Gun violence for me has been impactful since I've lived in Holyoke. One of my first memories in Holyoke was living on Hampshire Street, 110 Hampshire, running to the corner. I was about 5, 6 years old. Someone pulled up to the corner and pulled out a Tech 9 and started shooting at the house down the street. I was probably 5 to 6 years old, one of my first memories. Then moving to the flats, you meet a variety of different people throughout the community in Holyoke, right? You meet people from South Holyoke, you meet people from Sargent Street, Bowden Village, Tokaniki. When you're in the housing territories or in the neighborhoods where a lot of this stuff goes on, it becomes an intertwined, knit community where different posses end up forming. Some people would call them gangs, but I wouldn't call them that. I would call them community representation of different younger adults that are trying to find their way in this community. And in that process, they end up connecting in different ways. Now at 40 years old, I've unfortunately seen and felt what other families have felt in losing family members, losing friends, losing neighbors. When Francesca lost her child, I remember growing up with Francesca in the flats. I don't know her personally, but she lived on the other side of the flats while I grew up in Thetford Apartments. There are a lot of people in Holyoke that don't know each other personally, but know who we are because we know we're from Holyoke. When they lose a family member, when they lose a friend, we lose that family member and we lose that friend. Throughout the process in high school, I remember the kid Smiley, they got killed in South Holyoke. There are a lot of people like Gigante. I can list gun violence for years of different names of different peoples that have impacted us in Holyoke. And for me, it's one of the reasons why I ran as a city councilor. For me to be able to actually speak the language of the people that are really feeling this on the ground close up. It's not to say that teachers are not feeling it, because teachers are feeling it too. Teachers are losing students. At the same time, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, any staff member, ROCA losing students, and LASE are losing people. It doesn't matter what organization that is working within the communities, they're also losing that, so they're impacted as well. At the same time, some of the people that are pulling the trigger, you know them too. And you know them as the human that they were before they pulled that trigger. And that's another loss in the community, whether or not you want to believe that. There's victims on both sides here, and I think that it's important to highlight that here. For me, losing Dexter Ortiz, my best friend, from when I was probably like 8 years old, I still have dreams that feel real, that he's talking to me and communicating to me. And I just think that it's gotta be for something. And eventually, here in Holyoke, we'll figure out what that something is. But until then, I think it's time for us to show up in different ways. Not the same way we've been showing up like over the last 20, 30 years. Because nothing, I mean, we've done different initiatives, but when it comes to public safety, I have to say that a lot of the stuff is emulating some of the stuff as when I was a kid growing up, and I want to try to do something different. So again, I appreciate Anne, I appreciate the mayor, I appreciate everyone that's come out, and the organizations that are here too as well, because that speaks volumes if you're here for this event. For the work that you're doing and trying to bring our kids and our youth up, because the ones that are really being impacted the most is our youth right now. Although Dexter wasn't a youth when it happened, he was about to be 40 years old. I don't know how we escaped out of our youth without having that particular situation, but it was impacted by a youth, 18-year-old kid that ended up doing this and making a decision that possibly might end him locked up behind bars for the rest of his life. So it's 2 lives lost, not just one. With that, I'll end it, and again, I'll say thank you to everyone that's here.
Next, I'd like to invite community member Lyn Horan to the microphone, or microphones.
I can raise the
Okay.
chair.
Oh, excellent.
Thank you.
Yep, let me know if you need a hand.
It's a wonderful operation to be able to see eye to eye with people, but it's very slow. Thank you for your patience. So my name is Lyn Horan, resident of Holyoke. I'm here first. Some of you have heard my story, make it a little brief, but back in 2001, I got the phone call you don't want to hear from an emergency room nurse that asked me if I was seated. So I knew it was something pretty serious. She proceeded to tell me that my mother had been brought in, that somebody had put a gun to her head and pulled the trigger. But she quickly, before I could gasp, said, "She's all right, the gun malfunctioned." But he beat the holy crap out of her, pistol whipped her when she tried to get away. She ran and was able to at least, and by the way, my mom was 71, and the shooter was 78. This can happen with anybody, any age. And he was in obviously pretty good shape to be able to hold my mother down and beat her with the gun. She did pull away, ran into her apartment. He followed her. They both lived in the same apartment complex and they knew each other. And then he shot at the door handle to get to her. So I should tell you first, the beginning of this story is about gun violence with women and violence against women. This man had gone out on a date with my mother, and when she found out he was married, she said, "I'm sorry, but I have a rule. I don't go out with married men, but we can stay friends." What she didn't know was this man, Art, was a untreated schizophrenic. So there you have a third aspect of gun violence, untreated mental health issues. He apparently, we found out after the shooting, he apparently had assaulted somebody in a wheelchair at one point. He had a record of this kind of erratic behavior and was not getting treatment. But the story started after they did not see each other any longer. He began to call her names, be profane with her, threaten her, bang on her door in this apartment building that was also, fourth relevance, older people need to be in safe places. And it was an old school converted to a home for seniors. So anyway, she actually had called me and said he was acting kind of strangely. And we both actually thought senility, something like that. She didn't make it sound too terrible. And I said, if it gets worse, Mom, you need to contact your landlord, and definitely me. I didn't hear again from my mom till I got that call from the ER. And by the way, after my mother got away, locked her door, and he shot the door handle off, but the door held, she called her friend, June Maxwell, who also lived in the complex, who he was harassing as well. You see, because he was harassing two women, they contacted the police. The police came and they talked to this man as well as the landlord and June and my mother. And they were told that he was going to be evicted and had 2 weeks to get out there. What had happened, again, violence against women, is he got angrier. They sent, the cops told him, if there's nothing we can do until he actually physically hurts you, even though he had threatened them both. And the cops went home, and they said before they left, if I was you, I would file a restraining order against this man. They did. They left the apartment. Art had already left very angry. They left and planned to meet in the lobby a good maybe 15 minutes after the police left. And when they met in the lobby, they were going to first go back and get their purses to the apartments, meet in the lobby, and then they would drive to the police station and get the restraining order. They never made it because my mother, after getting her purse, had to pass this man's apartment. He was waiting for her with a loaded gun. The gun did malfunction, fortunately for my mother. She survived. She called her friend June to warn her, and she did not answer. The reason she didn't answer is Art went back and fixed what was wrong with the gun and went to June's apartment, knocked on the door, and this 78-year-old woman opened the door thinking it was my mother, and he shot her point blank in the face and killed her. So my mother lived with that guilty aspect all her remaining years. We got to have her for 10 years more. But June's family was not as lucky as that. Her granddaughter tried to kill herself after she heard her grandmother had been killed. And that was because the last word she had with her grandmother was an argument. These things go on forever. You heard Councilor Israel Rivera talk about how it expands in a neighborhood. It does. It goes on. You leave. I find myself talking about this, not thinking I would tear up at all, but when you start going through it, you do. Your whole community is impacted by the insecurity that violence brings in all walks of life. It is a complex problem. I agree with Izzy because we've been here before. There are lots of people doing things. Massachusetts, we have better, safer gun laws than a lot of places. But I heard last year our mayor talk frustrated to one senator here because he has to live with that, with being unable to stop what this violence is doing in our city because it's out of control. And I can't say enough. I see these communities. The other person I wanted to bring up just is, again, this family's son. I never met your son, but I did this drawing of him because I knew Izzy and I knew Priscilla Rivera and I knew so many people in my adopted city that loved your son, could tell marvelous stories about him up to his 38th year, and a father. And I saw that impact and I felt powerless. It isn't the same situation. I'm a white middle class person and I have experienced violence of all sorts, but it's not like what your son has had to deal with. What is he? Lots of people, and you all are mystified about how we stop this. All of us have to keep talking about it. We have to try something different. We have to build on what we've already done, but we've got to do something and work together. So thanks for listening to my long-winded speech on this. And, you know, again, I want to thank the mayor who's done this, every year as mayor, and also Izzy. Thank you. There's somebody who knows. And we have to keep doing it, keep talking about it, but trying to find something innovative too. It is complex. It's all the things that everybody deserves to feel safety in their own homes, for God's sakes, at least. Thank you for coming.
Next, I'd like to bring to the microphone Juan Anderson-Burgos, who will be speaking not only on behalf of Patricia Duffy, who was unable to make it today, but of course sends her support, but also to tell you his own story as well.
So I just want to read a very brief message that my boss, Representative Duffy, wanted me to read to everyone, and I quote, "Thank you to Anne Thalheimer, Mayor Garcia, and everyone who came together today to honor and support the survivors of gun violence. I'm proud of Massachusetts' record as a leader in gun safety, and I pledge to stand with you all," end quote. There's a lot of things going through my head right now, and as we all know, June is the month of Pride, right? But for me, it's difficult, extremely difficult. This is my friend KJ Morris. KJ, on June 12, 2016, KJ Morris was a bouncer at the Pulse nightclub. Not too long before she made her move, we were gathered with friends at Divas, celebrating her, celebrating us. And we were in a safe space, celebrating each other. There was laughter, crying, because we all knew we would miss KJ. We just had no idea that we would miss her in a different way months and months later. Had I known, I would have embraced her a little bit harder, and I would have begged her not to go. But you know, when people are on their way, making their way through life, you don't want to stop them, right? Because we don't know these things. No one knows these things. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or even now. And the irony, the damn irony, and this is what some of you, probably most of you, do not know. KJ was a huge advocate for gun reform. So to die at the hands of a gun is irony. It's unfair, it's injustice, it's every word that could explain and express the pain it has caused on our community. I always tell friends who own a gun, please know that once that bullet leaves that chamber, there's no changing its course. Wherever that bullet lands, it's a story. It's a story of someone taken, someone injured, someone scarred, and that includes a person. If they have a heart that's holding the gun, they're scarred too. You know, I relive June 12th every year. And I try to find a space where I'm not surrounded by people, because that's just who I am. And trust and believe when I tell you it's so hard to talk about this in front of you all, because I try to keep and embrace those feelings to myself and just deal with it. But on June 12th, on 2016, my husband had to watch me crumble. I could not leave the TV. I could not stop watching the stories. Every single article, every single piece of video that came out, I was trying to look for KJ, almost to scream out to her, run, run. I got sick. My husband was so concerned. He's like, baby, you don't look well. I want to say, you know, that it gets better. And I guess in a weird way it does, because we, as humans, we have this way of taking what hurts us the most and shoving it back here somewhere in the back of your head and say, I can't right now. I have to continue moving forward and live my life as KJ, or as the members who you have lost had wanted you to. But damn it, when this day comes, when that reminder comes, it's like you're reliving it all over again. And I just want to scream at the top of the world, stop. Stop killing one another. Stop. We can't continue living like this. I know nothing will bring KJ back. And I know KJ would tell me, live your best life. And that I am trying to do. But when I come back to this moment, I get weak all over again. I forget how to celebrate Pride, because I'm so consumed of our memories that those memories, and that those memories are there, and that we can't create any more with her. I'm stuck on that. I'm like, there's not seeing her again. She's here in these memories. I'm here. And there's nothing in between but this void of pain and hurt. And every time I hear of another shooting, I constantly think of her. It reminds me of her. But knowing KJ, she would tell me, shut up and dance. Dance like it's your last day. Because that's how we met. We met on the dance floor. Her and I, we took to that stage and that dance floor, and it was over. You know? So KJ, I know you're listening. Save me a spot on that dance floor. I miss you so much. Thank you, everyone.
So we are coming toward the end of our program. I am going to invite the mayor forward. Every year we do a proclamation, a resolution. And while he reads that resolution, I want you to think about how you will be resolved in our work together to end gun violence. After the proclamation is read, I encourage you to spend some time speaking with one another. Talk to the folks at the tables who are here. Talk to one another about the steps that you will do. the things that you will say to your children, how you will teach them what to do if they find a gun. It is on all of us to carry this forward, to make this world better, to work together to end gun violence. And I look forward to the year when we do not have to have these occasions anymore. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Counselor Anne Thalheimer, for organizing this event every single year. It's been a journey, and I so much appreciate working with you and making sure that we continue to put this out there and heal our community. Also, thank you so much to Councilor Israel Rivera and Juan Anderson-Burgos who came up here and you've heard from. And there are other councilors here as well. I see Councilor Patty Devine, and it's good to have members on the council who are connected and are moved by this particular concern, as complex as it may be. Councilor President Murphy Ramboletti here too as well. Where is Tessa? She's here somewhere. Hey Tessa. Colleagues on the council that partners in our legislative form of government that understand the complexity behind this issue and have been an important beacon to help guide me in what it is we can do in very creative ways to help address this very complex issue. So thank you so much, councilors. And also thank you to our Safe Neighborhood Initiative folks that are here, and Roka's in the house as well, and all the staff and the families who have been impacted as well. Thank you so much. You know, as we observe Gun Violence Awareness Day, we're coming together to honor the victims, to support survivors, and recommit ourselves to building a safer community for everybody in every corner of our city. And today, we can reflect with pride on the fact that Massachusetts has some of the strongest gun safety laws in the nation, and measures such as gun owner licensing and universal background checks and common sense firearm regulations. They've helped make our state safer than many other states across the United States. But we must also acknowledge the difficult truth, and that's just simply that strong state laws alone have not at all put an end to gun violence in America or here in our own community. We continue to witness mass shooting in schools and houses of worship, workplaces, public transportation, and other public spaces. We should be able to live in a country where our children are safe at school, where we should live in a country where we can safely go to a church or to a synagogue or to a mosque, a temple, a night spot. You know, these are places where folks should be able to feel safe and live their lives. We should be able to live in a country where you can feel safe riding a bus or standing on a corner just simply waiting for pizza. Yet too often, communities across this nation are left grieving lives cut short by preventable acts of violence. And as we remember those we've lost, we must also demand more from our leaders. We need elected officials, including myself, who are willing to put public safety ahead of political pressure, special interests. We need laws that reflect the realities of today's world. You know, as one political commentator observed, and I quote, "When the Second Amendment was written, guns fired 1 round a minute. Now they can fire over 100. Guns have evolved over the years, and so should our gun laws." But government action, I have to say, is not enough. Government action alone isn't enough. I also want to speak directly to the parents and grandparents and guardians and caregivers of our community to please talk to your children about guns. Talk to them about the dangers of firearms. Teach them what to do if they encounter a gun, have an honest conversation about peer pressure and conflict resolution and mental health and the consequences of violence. These conversations, they will feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it will save a life and change a whole trajectory of someone's lives. Gun violence is not someone else's problem. As you've already heard, it affects families, it affects neighborhoods, schools, and communities in our own city, across the Commonwealth in the United States. So preventing it is going to require all of us. I know a lot of people like to point fingers at City Hall and say, hey, what are you going to do about it? But it's really the community that makes the city, and I often remind people that neighbors need to hold each other accountable. And the real question is, what are we going to do about it? And I've heard some ideas already today, and we need to continue to support those ideas that can really change the trajectory. So on this Gun Violence Awareness Day, I want to honor those we've lost, not only with remembrance, but with action. Let us reject the normalization of violence. We're going to stand with our survivors. Let us hold our leaders accountable. Let us commit ourselves to creating a future where every person, old and young, and in Ezekiel's case, unborn, can learn, play, worship, and grow up free from the fear of gun violence. I here have the proclamation. Thank you so much, Anne. And here reads, whereas every day in the U.S., 130 people are shot and killed and hundreds more are wounded or traumatized. Americans are 25 times more likely to be killed with guns than people in other developed countries. And whereas public safety in the communities they serve is a mayor's highest responsibility. And whereas mayors and law enforcement officers and members of our communities know our neighborhoods best, are the most familiar with activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. And whereas today, June 3rd, 26, would have been the 29th birthday of Hadiya Pendleton, a teenager who marched in President Obama's second inaugural parade, and it was shot and killed just weeks later. To honor Hadiya and all the Americans whose lives are cut short each and every day, a national coalition of organizations has designated June 6th through the 8th as the National Gun Violence Awareness Days. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Hadiya's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods, and orange is a color that symbolizes the value of human life. Now there it be resolved. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Joshua A. Garcia, Mayor of Holyoke, Massachusetts, do hereby declare June 3rd, 2026 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day in Holyoke, and I encourage the citizens to join in this campaign by wearing orange to raise awareness of gun violence and honor all victims and survivors. Thank you so much, Anne, and everybody that's here.
Thank you. Again, thank you all for coming. Please take this opportunity to talk with one another, to meet our community partners, and to lift up the voices and memories of survivors. Thank you again.